Okay, we'll get this meeting started. And this is a special Police Services Board meeting for Wednesday, June 23rd, 2021, 10:30 a.m. this morning. So welcome, everybody. I'd like to welcome all the special guests. We've never had so many at our Police Services Board meeting. So good morning. And I'll pass it on now to number 2, the mayor, who will be doing the land acknowledgement meeting.
Thanks, Chair. As we start our meeting, we acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Sioux First Nation within the area of Treaty 3, and that many of the people and communities we serve come from Treaties 5 and 9, the Anishinaabe Aski Nation. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you, Doug, Mayor Doug. Okay, number 3, we'll get right into it. We'll do the agenda. 3A, introduction of amendments to the agenda.
There are none.
None, okay. And 3B, confirmation of the agenda.
I'll move that, Chair.
Yes, and second, Christine. Thank you. Before we get into number 4, I guess we should all introduce ourselves. I'm Darlene Ajakaneb. I am the chair for the Police Services Board here in Sioux. Other members of the Police Services Board?
I'm Christine Solanas, and I am the member for Police Services Board, and I'm out of Sioux First Nations Health Authority.
I'm Doug Lawrence, Mayor of Sioux and the 3rd member of the Police Services Board.
Okay. Michelle?
I'm Michelle LaRose. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer for the Municipality of Sioux, and I'm the resource staff person for the Police Services Board.
Okay, and Carl Duell?
Good morning, everybody. Carl Duell, Detached Commander, Sioux Detachment. And I also have Mike Christ here, the Operations Manager for the Sioux Detachment.
Next, we'll do Susan.
Hi, everybody. Susan Barkley from Sioux Out of the Cold program.
And Evan.
Morning, Evan here at the Learning Center.
Andrea, if that's you there. No, that's Lori. Okay, sorry. Okay, I'm not sure.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Lori Kendall. I'm housing manager of Newtown.
Okay. Lindsay, sorry.
Caught me sipping my coffee.
Yeah.
I'm Lindsay Gillett. I am the project manager with Noden Mental Health Services with the Sioux First Nations Health Authority.
Okay, thank you. Tana?
Oh, I'm Tana Troniak. I'm the executive director for First Step Women's Shelter and partner with Sioux Supportive Housing Program.
Okay. Jennifer?
Bonjour, I'm Jennifer Thomas. I'm the executive director for the Anishinaabe Friendship Center and also a partner for the Sioux Supportive Housing.
Okay, thank you. And Henry?
Hi, good morning. Henry Wall, and I'm the CEO for the Kenora District Services Board. Nice to see so many of you.
Okay, welcome. All right, so I'm glad we did that. And so we'll move on to 4, the items for discussion right away. 4A is the camp behind First Avenue. There are a camp of homeless people. I understand there are about 20 that are camping behind First Avenue. So who would like to start with this?
I think we're going to have Inspector Duell lead off with some information, but I'll just make some general introductory remarks first. Thanks everybody for coming in to meet. And I believe, Michelle, these meetings are live streamed. They're recorded for sure, but I think this is live streamed too, so it's available to the public.
Yes, there.
Just as an introduction, we do have a police services board that came into being about 4 years ago with a new type of contract that we have with the OPP. Maybe it was 5 years, about 4 years ago. The province dictates the numbers of members on the police services board, 2 local and 1 provincial appointee. Christine is the provincial appointee, and Darlene is a local municipal appointee, and I'm a representative council. We are undergoing, again, as dictated, or perhaps is too harsh a word, but as is required by the province, police services boards are undergoing some changes. We will be amalgamating with the Pickle Lake, that's the proposal, Pickle Lake Police Services Board to become a 5-member board, 2 members from Pickle and 3 members from Sioux Lookout. The Police Services Board in general has, and Carl can probably speak to this, he's had more experience than I have, but we have a role of a little bit of guidance. We meet quarterly and review statistics and performance indicators with the OPP. They present data. They're a wonderful source of data. So we do that and discuss areas of community concern. Although those quarterly meetings are all open to the public. The camp and the growing camp on east of First Avenue, you presented something that we thought it was we needed to talk before our coming meeting in mid-July. And we also wanted to get input and advice and engage the various agencies that have been engaged in such things with vulnerable people, and they're represented around the table. Maybe not all, I'm not sure, but we have a pretty good representation. And thank you all for doing the work you do in our community. You know, when I came to Sioux Lookout in 1985, I think there were 15,000 passenger movements per year through the airport. The year before COVID, and it's grown steadily. The COVID presented a bit of a change, but we are coming back already. But the year before COVID, there were, I think, 180,000 passenger movements per year, 175, something like that. So more than 10 times the number of passenger movements that there were 30, 35 years ago. In 1985, the former Indian residential school at Pelican Falls had been closed, and the new one hadn't opened. There were probably, I think, less than 100 First Nation high school students at the high school. The year before COVID, there were 180 students at Pelican Falls First Nations High School, and probably the same number or slightly higher First Nation students from the north at our local high school. The hospital, the zone hospital, I think the capacity there to see patients has increased with the new hospital, but the capacity to see outpatients has skyrocketed. For the most part, health services weren't offered all that much as outpatient services in the north. They were offered through the nursing stations. Much of the healthcare that we see delivered now by multifaceted professional healthcare deliverers was delivered by nurses at the health stations. Now we have, I think, on a daily basis, there's 250 plus, sometimes over 300 outpatients in Sioux Lookout on a daily basis. Slifna, I think, had 193,000 visits, overnight stays in 2019. I know there's Slifna people on the call. They could speak to that. I'm saying all this because Sioux Lookout has truly become the hub for the north. And in 1985, Susan might be able to tell me how many people were staying at the emergency shelter on a regular basis. If we had an emergency shelter, I'll let you to speak to that. Now we have an emergency shelter that had 18 people when I asked last week, and 20 people in the camp, plus 20 people in the one bush camp. I'm sure Henry could provide some statistics. I give all this background because of the growth of Sioux Lookout, which is very positive. and along with the positive, there comes some challenges. And I think the bush camp east of First Avenue is certainly one of the challenges for people who are coming here and for us as a municipality and for service deliverers. I think I'll stop there and speak later. Michelle, would you like to say something?
Yeah, through you, Chair Angie, I'm wondering if we can't refer to Lori Kendall. She's in Dryden today, and so she's on the call, but specific to complaints that she's received from her residents. So I'd like the Police Services Board to hear from her first before we turn it over to Inspector Duell, if that's appropriate.
Sure.
Lori, can you hear us?
Sorry, can you hear me now? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so we have had several complaints. 4 I have through email, and then various calls about the camp. Just from people coming in and stealing our tenants' belongings out on their deck, or that we've harassed them. Police have obviously been called. We do encourage our tenants to call the police, but it's getting to be overwhelming with all the complaints. That's really all I have to say. Anybody have any questions?
Chair.
Yes.
Lori, sorry, it was a little bit difficult to hear you.
Sorry.
Which, I'm sorry, I didn't get which housing agency it is that you represent.
Oh, we're with McCowan, so we own Wesley Place, 71st Avenue.
Thank you. And I believe what I heard you say was getting overwhelming with the complaints from.
Yeah, so our tenants have been harassed, they've been bullied, belongings have been stolen. Enough for a lot of people to complain.
All right. Anything else? Or
I think we should.
Nothing from me, no.
okay.
Perhaps Inspector Duell.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, so I can agree. I totally agree with what Lori is saying, and as well with the mayor's concerns. Our concern for this camp at the moment is in relation to the public safety, and many of that is for the tenants that live at these various housing agencies from 70, 72, and 74. You know, the people that reside there are, you know, many of them are on different types of assistance, and they have to work really hard to have the nice things that they want to be able to have and enjoy where they live. So it's public safety for them. And I'm also getting quite concerned about the public safety for the actual people at these camps. I'm just going through the statistics, and it's kind of hard to grab because we don't have an exact address for this location, and it's shifted right from behind the First Step Women's Shelter up to 74. So the addresses on our system are all over the place where these calls are, but directly related, we have at least 23 calls this year to date in relation to these camps. At least, I mean, and there's more, but these are the ones that specifically are coming up to that address. And at least 6 to 10 of them involve some pretty serious crime, victim crime, including sexual assaults and things like that. And you know, that's people that are participating in these camps. But so we also have to look out for them. So we have to really look at how we're approaching this, and we could really use the community stakeholders that are on this call also to help us with this. Like, we can look after the public safety aspect and try to go in there and make sure people are for the best part that we can do, but there's a lot of stakeholders on this call that could step up to try to find different solutions as opposed to the police and jail and those kinds of things. But we do, because of the concern that's come up and the issues that we're getting from the municipality, from the complainants, and from the housing authorities, we have stepped up a patrol, a nightly patrol of the park or of the campsite, where our officers are going in, and at my direction, it's a zero tolerance. When they go in there, if there's somebody highly intoxicated, it's a zero tolerance because of the safety. Yes, it's 20 degrees at night. However, from what we see with victimization, it's not safe to be passed out there. So I guess in the end, what would be helpful for us as police would be for some of our stakeholders and other agencies to come in there and try to find a solution, because it never looks good if it's the police that are coming and taking down these camps. It's not what we want to do. We'll do it if we're asked to, but I think there's probably a better way to get these people the help that they need and not make it like a law and order type thing. But totally whatever you guys think you want us to do.
Yeah, I was just looking at what's happening in Toronto. They're at the Trinity Bellwood Park. They did go in there, the police, as well as the security people. But I mean, the city of Toronto has $14 to $22 million, for security, securing places around the city, their property, and et cetera, et cetera. They were also offering for some of the camp people for places to stay, offering them hotel rooms. Why wouldn't they go to a hotel room? So that's what the city was doing there. I'm not sure what kind of budget Sioux has, if any. And, for some of the camp people, choosing not to go to the homeless shelter is another issue. So I'm not sure what we can do here in Sioux myself. So there are, I guess, different issues. Some of it has to do with mental health. Some of it has to do with addictions, whether it's to alcohol or to drugs, or a combination of both, the mental health and the addictions working together. So there are different reasons that people are around. And then when we look at the First Nations communities, a lot of times the people are couch surfing there, and there might not be enough space for them to live up there. You have 16 to 18 people living in a house, that type of situation. So there's poverty that is happening for some of these people, some of the communities. And yeah, so we're looking at a variety of issues here in Sioux. I know in the past we have, the mayor has asked, the government people for a detox center, and the police have also been asking for detox, especially in the wintertime. And where do you take people? Instead of taking them to jail, they should be taken to a place where they can be looked after, especially when you have the alcohol part of it. And yeah, so, and then the supportive housing was started, and that seemed to work to a certain degree. It brought down the numbers of the police calls, the service calls, and which is what we're concerned with as a police services board, one of our concerns. And yeah, that did work. And so, but now since the pandemic, we've been faced with another issue. It's taken on a different shape, I think, because at the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of people had gone home, and there were basically one or two people who were in town and using the services of the Out of the Cold, and then the bush camp had started up. The bush camp did have some form of leadership when it first started. There were two young males, I believe, who were the so-called the leaders of the camp, and they did have rules, and they followed some of the teachings, indigenous teachings, and so that was taking place for a little while. People were donating. I think people are still donating probably some things. And we were going out there as Equoic Women's Group to check on them because we did receive some urban indigenous funding, and we provided the PPE and some food, and we collected the garbage every week, and then that stopped. So because we don't have a worker there right now. And I'm not sure what's happened, but I understand there was a garbage collection. There were 3 truckloads that were pulled out of that area and taken to the dump. So, and then I'm hearing about the sexual assaults. I see more young women who are out there. I'm concerned for them because we don't know if they are being and put in a situation of human trafficking. And also, if they are being assaulted, are they telling anybody? A lot of times they won't. They won't even go to the hospital. There's a lot of a stigma of shame and that type of thing that happens with when it comes to sexual assault, sexual abuse. They might have experienced something like that where in their past. So they've gone through a lot of trauma already, and they may be going through it again. So yeah, I guess that would be my what would you call that? Just a summary of some of what's happening and what we're looking at. You see a few other people who've entered the meeting. We had introductions. We introduced ourselves, where we work, and what we're doing here. I see Joanna Jelinek. I'm not sure how you say her last name. Can you just provide a short introduction?
Yeah, hi, I'm Joanna Jelinek. You're close. Sorry for being late. I had some tech issues on my end. I'm with EMS, and I was the superintendent of Sioux Lookout. I've just moved over to Dryden, but I'm still overseeing the Sioux Lookout area until my position's filled. I'm not sure if you want a little more about what I've seen from my side being in Sioux Lookout now, or just intro for now.
Intro. That's
Okay.
That's good. Thank you. And Dave Hamilton.
Hi, I'm Dave Hamilton. I've just recently accepted the Deputy Chief position with Northwest EMS. I was the Central Region Superintendent of Operations prior to Joanna taking that over, and I spent 7 years working as a paramedic in Sioux Lookout between 2007 and 2016.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Sherry.
I'm the Executive Director of Community Living Dryden Sioux Lookout. We support adults with developmental disabilities.
Great, thank you. Okay. All right, so if everybody else wanted to contribute to this meeting, maybe they could provide a little bit more detail on what we're talking about this morning, which is the camp behind First Avenue. I would like to hear from Susan Barkley.
Good morning, everyone. I can give you background from my perspective. But I have to say that I totally agree, Darlene, that there are safety concerns, and my focus is mostly on the people that we work with. I realize that it overflows into other areas of the community, but my focus is the folks that we deal with. I try very hard not to classify them as homeless people.
Okay.
They are people first. And each and every one of them has a different reason for being in that camp. Probably, Carl, I didn't realize you guys were going in there. That probably explains why we have been relatively busy over the last couple of nights, particularly with people wanting to get in and out of the shelter, and that's a bit of a flag for me. But I have identified people who have been in, and so background, as the mayor mentioned, I can't go back to 1985, Doug, because we started in 1995, if I remember correctly. I don't have those stats, but I know we were dealing with maybe 8 or 10 people a night, and that was only on weekends when we started. My stats go back to 2008, at which time we were dealing with 416 individuals in that year. The year before COVID, we were dealing with almost 800. So the numbers have doubled of individuals that have sought service through the Out of the Cold. The overnight stays not necessarily doubled because there were more people who had no options in the earlier years. I do try and track who has options and who doesn't have options. There are on my list about 10 people using our shelter services who really have absolutely no other options at this point in time. Some of the folks who are using the camp came out here initially on a medical. Very few of them just have come out on their own. And going back to the beginning of COVID, we actually paid and sent people home. Not sent. It was safer for people to be in the community knowing what we knew and didn't know about COVID a year ago. It was safer for us to assist people to get to their community and stay safe rather than be in Sioux Lookout. And that's what we did. So there were over 40 people we were involved with in getting them home in the last week of March 2020. It stayed fairly quiet through COVID. There's always going to be a few people in Sioux Lookout who do not have options, and we know that. There's always the emergency things that happen where someone gets into a domestic dispute or something and can't go home and they need to come to us. Or, there's any number of things that happen. So it was pretty quiet until this spring and people started coming back out. Last summer, there were quite a few people around, but they all went home for the winter. The other thing is, Darlene, I agree 100%. Some of the homes in the north, I've been there. I've been in actually every community north of here except Wabakipewin and one other one. Anyway, I have been in those communities. I know the communities and I know the people, and I know that some of the homes are not what we would consider appropriate and adequate housing. They're overcrowded and they definitely are not always in the tip-top condition. That's something that, Sioux Lookout can't solve that problem. But that is one of the things that brings people out. There's no doubt about it. However, at the moment in Sioux Lookout, we do not have services to provide for these folks. We do not have detox. We do not have treatment. We do not have sufficient outpatient treatment, even if people were in a position where they could participate in an outpatient program. So when folks are out here, we need to identify what the underlying issue is, and that's what we try to do. If they are better served in their community and safer in their community, then we do everything in our power to get them to go to their home community. well, when it comes, and not everyone wants to, and that's fine because people do have choice. However, they need help and we don't have the help. And I know in most cases, the home communities don't have the help either, but it is a safer choice in most cases. I would never promote sending someone home to an abusive relationship. That's where the piece comes in, where you need to know who you're talking to. You can't just look at a group of people and say, oh, there's the homeless people in the camp, or there's the camp people, and we need to fix it. We really need to get down to dealing with individuals. As for the safety of particularly the women, but not just the women, but particularly the women, it is not safe. I know that that women are coming into the shelter and sharing with us what has happened to them in the camp. And that's everything from their pills and their purse being stolen to sexual assaults, physical assaults. When they come in battered and bruised, we do everything we can to get them to report. And even if they won't report, to try and connect them with the sexual assault services here in town, which most often they also refuse. So I don't know how many numbers you actually have, Carl, but I know there are a lot more sexual assaults happening in that camp. There has also been rumors of folks from out of town being in that camp, and that scares me for the safety of the people in the camp. We've had a few interesting individuals show up at the shelter who should be in other places and do have links to some organized crime, and that's spilling over into the camp, and that's not a good thing. There's not much we can do about it other than monitor and share with people how to be safer. I have sitting in front of me right now intake forms from the shelter. There's 15 of them here. And these actually are people who, for the most part, are not staying in the shelter, but they are coming to us for food and connecting and maybe a shower, maybe just coming in to get out of the rain, whatever. But there's 15 people here. 5 of them are medical. And we need to be able to reintegrate them into that medical system. The others, it's a variety of things going on with them. So I don't know what the overall answer is, but the camp is not a safe place for people to be. We had one call where a woman, I encountered her coming out of the shelter and my friend is dead, my friend is dead. Well, it turned out her friend wasn't dead. However, she very well could have been. And so it's not a safe place over there. We've had 2 people come to our door, significantly beat up, where we had to call EMS in, and those activities happened at the camp and they managed to get back as far as the shelter. But what if they can't get back to the shelter? So I don't believe the camp is a safe place for anyone right now. I personally believe the best thing to do with it is bulldoze it, but that may not be the most logical and appropriate thing to do. Anyway, that's all for now.
Okay. All right, thank you. And the next people I would like to hear from is Tana and then maybe Jennifer Thomas.
I don't know what to say. I guess our last meeting, what I will say is that, I think Henry left. So I do think that our drop-in center uptown really, really helped, because some of these issues, they would talk to the workers and we could, negate some of that, or, we had contact for them to go home, or they'd, we had Facebook and we had the phone so they could make calls and we could work with them. Like, they'd come in and tell us things. So I think that's one piece that's missing because they are uptown after, they leave the camp in the morning and head up there. They have moved away from the shelter, which is, if we were having calls and people knocking on our doors to phone ambulances and things like that. So, but I think when they were behind us, they had some leaders in the camp that helped take care of things. So I think it was a little bit different scenario, but yeah, it's like Susan said, we need more services. We need some kind of detox. I do believe the drop-in center was the best thing, but I look around uptown. I've even started looking for houses. I thought, what if I found a house close by, and then I'd have to go to the mayor or city council and try to get it, but there's no space. That's half of our problem. Like there is no space to provide services to the clients that are uptown because we have to be right up there, right? And you know what? The food and the conversation and the just sitting there, all of that helped too. It sobered them up. They, had a little nap, some of them, but I think the conversations and that helped. And you could direct them, you could get them like back over to the medical, or you could direct them to trying to get some other help. Women would probably tell the other women that were there if they were being assaulted that we could, direct them somewhere. But, we have lots of resources between us, my staff, between Jen's staff, that we work so close that we tried to do everything we could. So I don't know. Like I said, we don't have a space for the drop-in center. So I actually don't know what to say. Other than that, Jen?
Yeah, Jennifer?
Yeah, I think I'd echo, what Tana had just mentioned. I think the drop-in center was a key move in terms of addressing some of the issues that we had with people just needing assistance getting home, access to a phone or a computer. We were able to kind of connect people to resources, which was a great thing, have them complete housing applications. I think my main concern is, it isn't a safe place to camp. But what's the alternative? Housing is, there's such a shortage here. We can, quote, bulldoze the camp, but I think that's just going to encourage them to set up somewhere else. There's still a lack of services. Like Tana had mentioned, Darlene, you had mentioned earlier about supportive housing. We did see some amazing results, even in the first 4 months of opening. Calls for service dropped for some of the residents that we had, up to 85%, but we only have 20 rooms, and if we could build another 20, we could fill them tomorrow. But that's an issue of funding and support in our community. So I think, moving towards the harm reduction or continuing on that path of harm reduction, safe injection sites. I know that's a little bit of a controversial topic and not everybody supports that, but I think that would be something that would be key in our community to have that done in a safe way. Would certainly probably stop some of the gatherings, some of the places where, and I think all of us as leads of an organizations find needles outside of our buildings, in those places. So I think, again, moving on that harm reduction model would be key to addressing some. But I mean, even at the Friendship Center, a lot of the clients that are there were for medical reasons. They find themselves here and then can't comply with, some of the restrictions put on them, have access to things they don't normally have access to, and fall into this cycle of houselessness, addictions. There's a lot of mental health and things like that. So there's a gauntlet of things that we have to look at in order to address, those root causes. At the Friendship Center, like, we currently operate 16 direct service delivery programs with about 6 enhancement programs as well. So I know there has been many comments, why can't they just go to the Friendship Center? Understanding that 6 of the programs that we have at the Friendship Center are also youth programs. So that balance between providing a safe space for our youth and our elders and those on the path of sobriety to access services and programming excuse me, at the center, it's very difficult to balance that when you have the doors open. And we really try as best we can, but we're not set up, nor are we funded to provide that direct service delivery in terms of shelter and mitigating some of these. Although we try our best, again, the services are not adequate in our community to deal with, I think, this growing concern. So, yeah, miigwech.
All right, thank you. Okay, I guess we could go on to other persons here. I'm just, hold on.
Carl's waving at you.
Oh, Carl, okay, I didn't see you, okay.
Sorry about that. I think what's a couple of things, and I agree with what everybody's saying, because I do believe everything that we're talking about for the people that are at the camp. But I think I think the purpose of this meeting, at least from the police's perspective, was we all agree there's not enough services here. But we are kind of, we're not in a position now where this is, I think, where we can, this is where we're going to be able to put proposals forward and try to think about how we're going to get, those things need to happen. But right now, we have people in this community that are unsafe. So it is a balance between the people that are at the camp, but all the people that live at 70, 72, and 74 First Ave. These are not affluent residences where people live. They don't have an option for putting fences up or those kinds of things on their property. They rent property. And I mean, I can't say this for sure, but from my experience, that's a high Indigenous population as well, with young kids also. And my fear, and from the calls that we're getting, is we don't need them to be traumatized either. Because we have people that are in the camp and they have their tragic stories, many of them. But we can't have that spreading to the people that are trying to make or I don't want to say trying to make that life for themselves but they're struggling too, right?
Yep.
And we need to do something immediately, and that's why to preserve public safety, we have to act. So we're going there and we're going to do these patrols, and we're going to have a kind of a zero tolerance. I agree with what Susan says. If you're asking me for my professional opinion, that location is not safe. It is not good for public safety for the people that are staying there, and we have to consider them equally, the people that live at 72, 70, and 74. It's not fair not to consider them. And I know we all are, but we have to consider them too. And those are the people that are calling 911 that I have to respond to, and so we have to act in that way. So, and I guess the decision has to be to the Police Services Board and the people on here, is if the camp is going to stay, how are we going to respond to that to ensure there's public safety? Or if the decision is that it needs to come down, how as a community, as an organization, are we going to do that? And are we going to come together where we meet with them? There's time limit, not time limits, but we give them time. We give them pamphlets that talk about the different options there are. Susan has an opportunity. If you choose to go home, we can set that up for you. If you need a place to stay, we have the shelter. I think we kind of need to come up with immediate action, or this is only going to get worse. And I don't know if Lori touched on it, but these people that live, they're losing their little kids' bikes, they're losing their toys, they're losing their barbecues. That's not fair either, and we have to respond to that. But I'll leave. That's all I wanted to cover.
Yes, Mayor.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Carl. I'd like to cover two things here. One is the immediate situation. Well, actually, two, more than two, the immediate situation, the midterm and the long term. We don't have enough services in Sioux Lookout. We don't have enough facilities, services, etc. We have wonderful services provided by all the people, but there's not enough. There's huge gaps, just things where there's a complete void. Not that there's not enough, there's not any. That's one thing. But it's not for lack of trying. Michelle, could you just put that table up that is over since 2015? This is a summary table of delegation asked. These have happened at can we make it, how big can you make that? Is that about it?
That's the best
Okay.
I can do at this point.
So if you look on the right hand side, you'll see here's detox, 20 unit detox. Michelle's got the hour going up and down there. And sorted by date, starting in 2016, going down to as recently as April 2021. These are all formal. Associated with each of these rows is a briefing note with data, with statistics, or a complete study proposal, as we did at in February this year with the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions, Minister Thibodeau. We've advocated for this is for detox. And that's over the course of over 6 years. We've given them all the data, all the statistics. We've advocated for addictions treatment and safe houses over these years. Again, each one of these represents a meeting, most of them with an actual minister, with the Attorney General, with the Solicitor General, Minister of Health, Mental Health and Addictions, for addictions treatment, for safe houses, for alternative justice, for detox. There's 4 pages here of these asks. All with data, statistics, and support, some with partners going with us. There remain asks. So in the last, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I said, all right, the heck with it. I didn't mean it that way. I'm not going to go to the Solicitor General with telling her all the things that we need. I'm going to go to her and say, since you're not willing to your government isn't willing to do this, we just need policing cost relief. So gave her a binder that was 2 inches thick with a summary of all the things we need and a request for policing cost relief. So in the long term, do we need detox? Thanks, Michelle. And if anybody wants a copy of this, maybe we'll Michelle, could you send it out to everybody who's in attendance here so they can take a look at it? These asks are the service gaps are there, and we need to put our ask in a different way. I don't know what we need to do. But we don't have them, and we're not going to have them next month. Or, I mean, the most we can hope for is to have some of the smaller things, like a drop-in center, maybe a new emergency shelter. Maybe we can get those in the next year or two. And maybe they're closer, and that's working with the District Services Board is probably our best opportunity there. And we'll continue to do that. But the camp is there, the services aren't here. What can we do? I agree with the inspector, and listening to what people say. I think we need to take the camp down, and we need to do it in a respectful way that we cannot be encouraging. When I hear about, it's becoming the center for criminal activity of assault, a center perhaps for facilitating criminal activity elsewhere. Certainly the neighbors are in trouble. And I just don't think we can encourage this growth. People are going to continue to come to Sioux Lookout. They've been coming here for decades. The numbers are growing, and with that, the numbers of this type of thing, the situation increases. But I think allowing it to be focused in one place, it's almost as if I'm saying, 2 years ago when we had people sleeping in the rough, but they were sleeping probably in 3, 4, 5 different locations in groups of 2, 3, or 5. I think smaller groups, and maybe that's safer. Maybe it's better for everybody. But hearing what I'm hearing about the level of organization, I just don't think that we can permit it to keep going. I think we need to take it down, but we need to do that in a way where we go in, and this is, I think, what the inspector is suggesting. We set a date of 5 days from now, and in the interim, whoever can goes in and tries to connect with people. Maybe I don't know how that gets organized. Carl and Susan and Tana and Darlene have better ideas than I do how you go in and try to say to people, let them know, look, this camp will be closed. We're going to come in here and take it down as of Monday. How can we get you connected to go home? How can we connect you to have a place to stay, this shelter? What do you need? How can we connect you to services? But you will not be permitted to stay here anymore. This camp is coming down. And that's sort of the short term. And in the midterm, I think push hard for, again, working with KDSB for a drop-in center, a new and larger and maybe fuller service emergency shelter. Those are the things that I think we can get closer on a closer horizon. The response team, the mobile response team is great. All the work that everybody does is great. We just don't have enough facilities. And I think this camp and the proliferation of it is detrimental to everything we're doing. I'll leave that out there, Darlene. Chair, thanks for thoughts.
Okay. Yes, Susan.
Okay. Sort of along the lines, looking at short-term, long-term, I totally agree with the mayor that in the short term, we need to approach people as individuals. Lindsay, I really think that is a key role that the outreach workers should be pulled into. They have started to create some relationships out there, but they need to go one-on-one with people and sit them down. I mean, we know who most of them are. I mean, I know who most of them are. I do have some background on the majority of the folks who are using that space. I can give them that little bit of before they sit face to face with people so they know when they're not getting exactly the truth, because people will tell you all sorts of stories about why they can or can't do stuff. So, I mean, I think we can do that. I think we do have the resources in that team. I know, Carl, your lady's supposed to be coming on July 1st, who's going to be working with the OPP as part of that outreach package. And there may be a role that certainly I know that that's a specific role to answer emergent calls, but there may be some downtime and also some integration in that piece that can help. I don't have staff I can send out to the bush to grab people. We're lucky to have enough people in the building to supervise what's going on in the building. So people do need to come to us. During COVID, there were some difficulties with making sure we were safe in the building under COVID protocols. Though that stuff's gone now, except they have to wear their masks, they have to keep their distancing. There will, if more of the folks decide to start using the shelter, then they will have to follow the rules. And that's one of their biggest problems. We don't allow alcohol in the building, and we can't. We just can't, because you cannot manage the population under the influence in that setting. We can't let everybody just cuddle with their partner. Like, it's just not going to happen in that setting. I don't have separate rooms for A and B person and C and D person and E and F person. Sorry, we have girls and we have boys. And I know that's also another issue with folks who are staying outside our building. But I think the outreach team is got to be key in this. If we can do it like we do with a situation table intervention, where basically there's a whole bunch of faces that are not the same ones that are always talking to you. Often it's not a good idea for me to sit in on that intervention on a situation table because they've heard my voice 100 times already. That it's better to have some other service providers sitting down with people and saying, we care about you. This is not a safe situation. What can we do to help you? So I think that's where we go in the short term. Absolutely, in the long term, we could have, Tana and I and Jose have met several times. We could have a drop-in center. We just can't find a suitable place. That could happen tomorrow if we had a place to put it in. the shelter is a bit longer term, but of course there's lots of talking about how that could happen. But if anybody's got a spot right downtown, and it does have to be right downtown, I think we know that people aren't going to travel away from their social paths. It does have to be right downtown, but I've looked everywhere too. Sorry.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, so we've heard from everybody except for Evan. I don't know if you have anything to say. No? Okay.
No, this is good for now.
Okay, Henry, there he is.
Evan is the drop-in center right now. I was over there yesterday and they're all hanging out with him.
Okay. Yeah, outside.
Yeah, I would just, that maybe that's one thing I'll add. If we do make a plan, give me the heads up as soon as you can, and I'll start doing that face-to-face talking.
I like what you said, Susan, about you know, the letting people know and letting them know ahead of time what is coming, and to do it in a way that is respectful. Like you said, there are 5 people who are on the medicals, and so those ones would be easy to.
At least, darling, there's more than that, but there's at least 5 that I have their paperwork.
So say out of the 20, then some of them can be resolved that way. And then the other ones, the case studies with the Nathan and the Lindsay, I guess, working closely with some of them to find out what's going on, and also to let them know what is coming here, because as Inspector Dool had said, that public safety is of great concern for the campers, but also for the tenants who are living near the area. And for Natawin, I don't know why is it possible to build fences for the tenants so that some of their belongings or their safety might be improved for the tenants. So that's the only other situation I can see there. And yeah, I think that's what we're going to have to do, is eventually to discourage that camp, because there's too much criminal activity that might be coming into play, especially with the possible link to organized crime that might be happening with some of the people. And okay, so I guess that's pretty much what's going to come, that the camp will eventually be dismantled, and hopefully some of the people will find places to live or to find services, and we'll see how it goes. So Henry, I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea of what we were discussing. We talked about what was happening with the Natawin housing, with the belongings that were being stolen off the decks, harassment of tenants, and bullying that were happening for those tenants of those houses on First Avenue. And there are a lot of complaints that are coming in. Inspector Dool talked about public safety, not for the tenants, but also for the people within the camps, because there are too many assaults, sexual assaults that's happening. And there are a lot of it's just that the camp is not safe right now. It's a place that Susan and Carl have said that it's not deemed safe for anybody right now. what else? There's a lack of services. The drop-in center is so badly needed. As Tana and Jennifer had both mentioned, that there is no space anywhere downtown where they could have that. At least people were being fed with food, and they were also getting links to some of the services in the community and talking a little bit more. And it seemed to be a safer place for people to go and connect with some of the services and to get out of the cold or wet elements. Harm reduction, I guess Jennifer had mentioned that the harm reduction should be continued. She talked a little bit about safe injection sites, but we're not sure about that right now. And the mayor, of course, showed us all the asks that he had 4 pages of meetings, communities, documents, and asking the government for different things that are needed here in Sioux. We have also been, I think there might be other asks and things that have gone on with the community safety and well-being plan, and that document is also here in Sioux. So yeah, so I guess the other thing is the supportive housing. If we had another 20 units, that would take care of the 20 people that are here in Sioux and homeless, the bush camp right now. So that's what we want, 20 beds for them. Okay, so Henry, that's pretty much a summary of what was said here today. Okay. Do you have anything to add?
I really appreciate it. My apologies, I had to step out to another meeting for a few minutes. And I think it's good. This isn't going to go away. It's probably going to get worse. We're seeing similar situations starting to emerge in other communities. Not just Kenora, but also say with respect to Dryden. We, similar to what concerns that Natawan has raised as well, is that we have housing units in Dryden that are near similar locations, and until the safety concern is addressed, we're keeping those units empty right now, which is a real shame, especially given that we have many families who are waiting for housing in Dryden. But it's a growing safety concern, and it isn't going to go away. So I think for it to be addressed sooner rather than later is really good. And you're right, we do need more housing. If we could have another 20 or 30 supportive housing units in Sioux, they would go over very well in terms of being able to address the current needs. And I think it speaks to, and it was raised that it speaks to the fact that it's so difficult to address the current challenges without some key infrastructure, like medical detox as an example, like treatment. You can't take shortcuts for this stuff. And yet, like any housing that we're building in Sioux, especially with the supportive housing, and I think, Jennifer and Tana, who are, I think, they live this every day. At the beginning, and even sometimes those units are all in one. They end up being detoxed, end up being treatment, and it's a real challenge. I think something that upper levels of government cannot forget is that we have some key pieces of infrastructure still that need to be addressed. They should have been addressed a generation ago, and we need to keep just putting pressure on that. And we're hoping through dialogues like this and support from the municipality and other community members that we can convince Ontario to support existing community partners with the creation of detox, to support Maniyaw with the Medical Detox Center, to support SLIFNA and Node and other community partners with more treatment supports and so forth. So unfortunately, it's moving a bit slow, but I also feel like we are being heard. And it's just, those are long-term solutions. So we do need to have some immediate pieces. And what I'm taking away from today too is just, there's some resourcing pieces that we need, and to see, is there anything KDSB can do in the interim to help with some of the immediate needs. it's I think the safety for everyone is really important. And Darlene, you're spot on in that if we don't address this, people are set up to put in harm's way in some of these encampments, especially women, especially young women in our other communities. And I think it's no different in Sioux Lookout. So hopefully we can have another meeting like this, because it's just so we can making sure that we all work together and we're all on the same page as well.
I would kind of echo what Henry was saying there in terms of, right, like if the decision is camp needs to be dismantled, I think we need to take the boots on the ground folks and have another meeting so we're on the same page about what are those sit down conversations with the folks that are living there going to look like. What actually are the options that we're giving people aside from go home, right? There needs to be, I think, a little bit more conversation around what can we actually offer in the interim and what kind of timeline is fair, right? And respectful of the people who are living there.
Yes, Mayor.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I agree, Lindsay, but I also feel that there is some urgency to this, and this needs to happen in a matter of like within the week. So it's and I know Carl has said, and I agree. In some ways, we don't want it to be a police-led, but in some ways, behind the scenes, there might need to be some police leading here and coordinating. I think they may be the best placed agency at this table to help coordinate that, even if they're a backstage leader, so to speak, but they will need to be present in some way as well. The municipality will have to have some presence as well, I think, as we did in the cleanup with helping to clean up. But yeah, being respectful to everybody that's there and realizing that there's not going to be an answer for everybody. Absolutely. And some of it will just be you have to leave. And if you're not willing to connect to this service or that service, or we have, for all the reasons we've stated, the proliferation of large camps like this, I don't think can be permitted. There is an acknowledgement that we will probably have smaller in the rough mini camps arising, but they seem to have been more manageable. They don't attract the criminal organization element. They perhaps, I can't imagine that the females are that much safer. I think there's still that concern there, but anyway, so I think what after this, I may speak to Carl and with the CAO and just do some background talking before then, if Carl's agreeable to coordinate with agencies, if that works for you, Carl.
Yeah, sure. We can set something up in the next day.
Okay. Thanks. And Henry, just while you were out, thanks for coming back. It was basically, we looked at short term, middle term, and long term. The long term, that's why the delegation summary table that I sent out was basically the long term is a long term. It hasn't come yet, but in the midterm, the thing is the drop-in center is seen as a real need, as is a fully resourced emergency shelter, I think. And in the short term, it's we must respectfully take down this large camp and not allow others to arise in such a way to keep everybody safe, neighbors as well as people in the camps and the community at large.
Just given the impacts that COVID's had on just our day-to-day lives and how business is done, are there any opportunities for space that might be open for an immediate drop-in center, even if it is temporarily through the summer?
We've tried really hard. Tana and I have driven around the town. We've looked at every possible place close to downtown, and other than a temporary setup, like I said, a tent, although it has a whole bunch of drawbacks. I know we had a big discussion about that. A tent inside a fence, it would be a better option. Something like that could work, but it's really difficult, Henry. There's nothing here.
Okay.
A couple of empty lots. Did I say that?
Because if there were, I do think KDSB is in an immediate position to be able to allocate some financial resources to at least to help support the operations of such a drop-in center.
Yeah.
Like we're talking immediate.
Yep.
We're still looking, like, I mean, we met Jose too, and Sue and me, and I can't remember, Jennifer might have been there, trying to problem solve. And of course, our ideas were like a tent, but then who's going to watch it at night? And, you know, I'm thinking, I was driving around looking, maybe we'll buy a house and convert it. Like, you know, yeah, we're looking. I've even had people phone like Wendigo and say, what are you doing over there? And, you know, but yeah, I don't know.
Michelle's the part of the conversation too.
Would there be, I mean, this probably isn't the case, but well, I can't remember the name of the company that's doing all that line work, but like, would they be willing to donate a trailer, an ATCO trailer, then we could throw uptown somewhere in that vacant lot? I don't know. Is that, or does KDSB have the ability to get an ATCO trailer for the summer?
One of the problems there, Carl, is capacity too. We're talking 20 plus people. We are still under some COVID restrictions. So we do have, you know, one ATCO trailer isn't going to, you'll have a lineup outside waiting to get in because it'll have to be rotated. And that's what happens at lunchtime at the shelter. We can only accommodate so many people at a time, that kind of thing. So
I think if we had a lot that, you know, that we've talked about this prior to, if we had a lot, getting a trailer, we were thinking of doing it, remember, beside that empty lot there. And then the one expense is getting water run to it and the sewer and that stuff. Because the other thing that people stopped by for was to use the washrooms and wash their hands and things like that. So that also adds an expense, because I thought the lot beside Colors over, you know, over there, I don't know where it's empty over there, but I was told there was some empty. If we could have plopped something down there, it would have been ideal. But I think it would have cost us quite a bit to run the lines, I think. Isn't that, I don't know, Doug or Michelle could clarify that, but it's old, I guess. I guess it was an old Esso or something, or.
Yeah, there would need to be new, there's nothing available for sewer and water. It would have to be a new installation.
there's a lot in the middle of downtown, but I don't think the town owns it.
The one where McPhee's used to be, we don't own that yet. Who knows? The lot owned by Wendigo, adjacent to community living, behind the liquor store on King Street, is the one that we had talked about. Is if we could lease that from Wendigo for a temporary situation.
That they turned us down, and they're actually started some movement on that lot.
Well, Henry, back to the Mayfair Theater. I think I'm not sure if anybody else is interested in it right now, but have we completed removing all the materials from it, Michelle?
It's not quite finished yet, but it will be shortly.
You know, all the hazardous materials, all the rotten material is gone. You have an empty shell of a reasonably sound structure there that's available. Lots of interior work. It's not a short-term solution. The ATCO trailer is because it comes finished. You know, you can get a double wide ATCO, but you can get 12-foot wide. Double wide is a 24-foot wide, and what are they, 40 feet long? That's 24 by 40. It's almost 1,000 square feet, complete with washrooms.
Yeah, it would work. We would just need somewhere to park it. And
Would
that
you
we
be
could
throw an ATCO in the back parking lot behind the Mayfair?
No, because the Mayfair actually lot goes right to the laneway. There's no parking behind that building.
By like that would encompass the northern and where Winks is, because that's a decent sized parking lot there.
Yeah, but the town only has one piece of it.
That was my thought. Yeah.
Privately owned.
Yeah.
Doesn't community living own right beside the beer store? Like Sherry's gone now.
Oh, community living? I'm not sure. She's gone.
Yeah, I think they own the lot right beside the beer store. Could sub-rent it from them.
I thought the town had that one.
This is when I worked for them. I don't know if they still own it actually.
I don't. I think, I mean, for our purposes, rather than drag this meeting out, I think there are people who have been actively working on the idea of drop-in. And maybe we need to put our heads together again.
Yeah, and if anybody has any ideas, send me an email, because then we'll, I mean, I can't remember if we have a next meeting scheduled for that, but yeah.
I don't think we did, but we easily could.
Yeah, but I think going back to the problem in hand, I do think we're just, I think, I agree, we're gonna have to take down the camp as respectfully as we can. And, you know, move them on, and, you know, we are gonna see some more tents pop up, hopefully not as big, and hopefully not in a residential area. You know, that's like, realistically, people aren't going to go home if they don't want to go home. Like,
No.
you know, they're enjoying their time here some. So,
like in Tana, I think we'll be able to, once we break down or once this larger one comes down, then as long as for us then to know that the municipality and the partners, you know, don't want these things because of the public safety issue for everybody, then it's easier for us to not let them become the beasts that they can. So, you know, if we see one, then it's more of an active enforcement of, and I don't mean that in like putting people in jail, or it's just can't be here, move, you can't set up a tent here, move along. It was during the COVID times, and because things were kind of working in behind the women's shelter, it was allowed to kind of grow, but then now it's been bigger than it can be managed. And that's the problem. So I like Mike Kreis is going to take the lead as requested by the mayor, but we need to know before we close this meeting, which community groups on this call are willing to step up and help us take that lead. Like, I need to know who's going to be there so that we can bring them on board right away.
So 100% our mobile outreach workers will be involved in having those conversations individually with folks. I am a little concerned, to be honest, about the dynamics of how involved we should be in the actual dismantling, because I don't want to ruin that rapport and that relationship with the clients, right? But I think that there's a conversation there to have, right? I don't want my staff to then not be a safe space because they see us as part of kicking them out of their home, right? But by all means, those pre-conversations around how can we help you? Let's sit down, let's look at your options, just so you know this is coming. It's not coming from us, but it's coming. How can we help you? We're in as much as we need to be. My only caveat is I can't just send 2 staff into the camp alone.
yeah, I think Evan too, once they start, I think it'd be, because you're there, they're out there, that just see, maybe they'll tell you what they need or something like that, which would be really good. And maybe some will go over today out of the cold suit. I don't know. Yeah.
We have been seeing most of them, at least a little bit of the time.
Carl,
and we don't mind, like I said, we don't mind taking the lead. We can be if we're so chosen, we can be the face of this. But as we all know from the media, these are the kind of things then that draw a lot of attention and negativity, and it may result in complaints to the police services board or in the media about police going in and taking this down. So in the interim, I was talking to a member from IFNA, is maybe then it's at least if it's the police services board and maybe some of our partners here, the Friendship Center, whatever, being part of some messaging, whether it's public messaging that the municipality wants to put out, the police services board, whoever, so that we're doing this as a team. It's not us coming in and, you know, ripping things apart. That's not the way it's going to go. Sorry, Jennifer.
No, no worries. I just wanted to mention, I think we could establish a team to be a part of that conversation as well prior to the taking down or dismantling of the camp. I think, you know, I agree with Lindsay as well. We always try to create a safe space for people and explain, you know, the process and why the decision has been made. And I think it's important to provide an opportunity for people to use their voice and let us know where they're at and why they're there and what they need to kind of move forward in a good way. So I think we can establish at the Friendship Center a team that could go into the camp and have those conversations, again, giving people a little bit of time to, I think, digest the information and know that they're going to have to find another place to live. Because I think we need to remember too, this is not the first time that, you know, these residents of the camp have heard this and had to be displaced from their homes. So I think it's really important to remember that historical component as well and be very gentle and kind in our approach. So giving people time to kind of digest that before dismantling. And then we could be a part of that, whether it's, you know, the financial component and helping people get back or somewhere else or whatever the case may be, whether that's advocating for them, you know, family reunification here in the community or whatnot. Please, you know, include the Friendship Center in that component. Miigwech.
I think too, we should, you know, we have to think about the victims in this too. Like we have families that are in low income housing pretty much, and they've lost bikes and barbecues. Now they can't go out and buy another barbecue neither. So I think as an organization, we should be one big one, but as a group too, I think it would be good to find out if we can do anything for, like, what if some children lost their bikes? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'd like to find that out. So as a group, we can work on getting them a bike, or, you know, maybe somebody has a barbecue and they're buying a new one. And so I think we should look at that aspect too. So our community members also know we're there to support them too, right? So I think that's important. And if we do get complaints, we also, that helps too in the complaint, you know, it's the families there, we have to help them also. And that's by relocating or moving the tents. So, but I do, I don't know, Carl or whoever, or if the police services knows families that like bring that to our committees too, so we can discuss that, because we may find things. There's a lot of employees and a lot of people that would maybe we have a bike over at the shelter because we got a bunch donated that we could give a child to. So, you know, let's keep it both. So we're doing some really good work too at the same time, right? Because they are victims in that sense, right? They've lost stuff. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, Carl, we'll work with you however we can to spread this word. I'm wondering though, is like when it actually comes to removing the physical camp, if it should not be the police and it should not be us. Is there a way that a contractor can be brought in to do that so that it's, you know, we've done our best to get people to go to alternate places, and I don't know how we facilitate that. I mean, I watched the pictures from Trinity Park last night too, Darlene, and I mean, it could get ugly. I'm hoping it doesn't, but it could.
Just if I could share this before we end our meeting today. When the city of Kenora and the OPP moved to do something very similar in Kenora last summer, the fact that we're having this conversation is really good, because this is a community effort, and so I think this is a really good first step in terms of ensuring that this isn't a police-driven initiative, it's not a municipal-driven initiative, because it is very sensitive. And I think to Tana and Jennifer's comments, we also need to make sure through this process that we don't re-victimize and re-traumatize some of the individuals that are there. So it'd be good to have people there that are not in uniform. Like it just will de-escalate the situations, but like not just only those in uniform, but certainly people can just help. But this is about working together to address a pretty complicated and a complex situation. And I think that would have helped in Kenora instead of just going in and dismantling it. So there's a lot of trauma that was created inadvertently because of that. So I think if we can just be mindful and we approach this through a trauma-informed approach, it's going to go, I think it's going to go much better, especially those who feel they have no choice. Aside from that, KDSB is fully behind the partnership here. And if there's anything, even financially and so forth, we can help with getting supplies and whatnot, just please let us know. We will step up and make that happen. So.
Thank you. All right, so where do we go now? I like the idea of not sending in uniforms right now. I like the idea of prepping, letting people know, through the different agencies, letting their clients know what we talked about today here and what has to be done, and that we're doing it in a way where we're looking after people and their safety, and we're doing it in a caring way, I think, and for everybody, for residents of Sioux on First Avenue, and also for the people in those camps and their safety. And we'll try to hook them up with services and find out what can be done for them to return home if they need to. So, and to provide support at the same time, not to re-traumatize. So, and do it a little bit at a time, I guess. Go in there and do it a little bit at a time, and see what needs to be done. I have no idea what's out there right now. Yes, Mayor?
I'm looking at Michelle as I say this and just wondering if an initial one-page correspondence information could come from the Police Services Board, the municipality, that sort of sums up the direction that we're taking, the agencies engaged, whether we just without naming them, with multiple agencies in Sioux the camp will be coming down. It's a letter that could be handed out to, provided to all of you and provided to people in the camp. The police could have it, and it's sort of, as well as a public information sheet, it's more like an information to the camp residents. It's almost immediate release of how we have decided to proceed, without dates in it, other than this is happening reasonably soon. And then there's, I think, Carl, I think you and your team are going to help put this together in the background, the dismantling without uniforms and whatever. We can perhaps figure that out, and I think that's a good idea. Who it is, whether it's a contractor, I'm not sure. Is it municipal workers? I'm not sure. But we don't have all the answers. I think we've got a path forward in the short term today, and some of these details will have to be worked out. But I'm suggesting an initial piece of correspondence that the municipality puts that out as a one-page information sheet, specifically for your use and for the people in the camp, and perhaps the neighbors to the camp as well, to Nitawan Housing. Michelle, any thoughts there?
Through you, Chair Angie Kneb, yeah, I think that would be a good idea. That way everybody would be on the same page, and the same messaging would be going to both the residents of the camp and the neighboring residents that live on First Ave.
And Chair, I'm just going to ask Michelle a question here about police services boards. Do we need to give, so the police services board has convened a meeting, and we're sort of, there's lots of discussion and ideas and direction. Do we need any motions? How does that work from the Police Services Board?
I think it could be a formal motion if you'd like, but I can take it as direction.
Okay. And the same with the OPP can take it as direction at the Police Services Board. Do we direct the OPP? I'm not sure.
No, we request.
Request, okay.
All right, so I guess that'll be it for this discussion and for this meeting. So I'd like to thank everybody for coming and participating in the discussion. We will have our next meeting on July 21st next month. So that'll be the next Police Services Board meeting on July 21st at 1 p.m. Via Zoom. And I guess in the meantime, there will be the Vulnerable Committee, Vulnerable Committee meeting. That'll take place. I'm sure further discussion might happen there. And I guess we'll just adjourn the meeting then for now. And we'll have a motion to adjourn. So yes, Christine makes the motion and Doug, Mayor Doug seconds. And thank you, everybody. Okay.